Before we get into the fights, I'm going to talk a little bit about betting tips and tricks that have worked for me. It's important not to get too excited and spend all your money on one bet or place a wager on your favorite fighter. Like I love the Green Bay Packers, so you probably shouldn't bet on them because you like them a lot, and you can be swayed because you like them and not because they're the better choice. So when dealing with your bankroll, it's important to always keep money on your books. When you win, you get excited and you want to take all that money out. But say your typical bet is $20, right? So I would suggest you want to always keep $100 in your bankroll. So that means you could place 5 $20 bets. And the likelihood of you winning one out of those 5 bets is pretty high. Hopefully you can win 2, that way you can have a little bit extra money you can pull out. But you always want to leave money in your bankroll and never empty it so you can place more bets without having to take more of your personal money and put it into the system. You always want to use that money you've won to place another bet. And also, I like to keep my parlays between 2 or 3 people. When you do so, it helps your odds of winning. Big, huge parlays, things can go wrong. There's a higher chance of one of those fighters losing. So I like to keep them to 2 or 3 at a minimum. Also, when I do multiple bets on a single event, I like to choose different fighters for each parlay. If you make 2 or 3 different parlays, but you use the same fighter in each one of them, say that fighter loses, then you've lost all your bets just on that one fighter. So it's good to mix it up and pick different fighters. I also try to go with fighters that I know have a for sure win. Ones that are questionable, matches that are close, I try to stay away from. I also tend to stay away from main events a lot, just because you never know, anything can happen, and I've seemed to lose more on main events than I have any other ones, just because the tides can turn and things happen and change at any moment. There you go, there's some tips and tricks, and I hope they help. Let's get into the fights. Alright, let's get into the fights. First up, we have Tatsu Retira versus Carlos Candelario. Man, Tatsu is a great grappler. He's physically strong. He's young, but he's got lots of experience. Carlos, he scrambles well. He's a volume puncher, and he likes to put that pressure on you. I think this fight's going to boil down to whoever ends up top in the grappling. Tatsu has good leg kicks. He's a little bit of a slow striker, and he kind of leaves his head up a little bit when he moves, which can be worrisome. He's got great cardio, but I think he's going to get exposed a little bit on the feet. Both these guys are great prospects, but Tatsu, man, he makes it look easy. He's finishing guys, knocking them out, submissioning them. 8 out of 10 of his wins are by finish. As to where Carlos, most of his fights have gone to a decision. And for that reason, I'm going to pick Tatsu Retira as the winner. Next up, we have Gina Manzani versus Shannon Young. Shout out to Shannon Young, Tennessee fighter out of Knoxville. I always got mad love for Tennessee fighters, as I used to fight out in Nashville. Spent a considerable amount of time there, and my son lives in Nashville as well. That being said, Gina has had cardio issues in the past. The question is she going to be able to get a takedown? She really hasn't added a whole lot to her game. She's kind of been consistently the same fighter she's always been. Shannon Young is a great striker. Really good striker in my opinion, but she's got a lot of holes in her grappling. She was the bantamweight King of the Cage champion. She wrestled at King's University, but being a collegiate wrestler, she does get taken down pretty easily. She's a karate black belt, great striking. I think, which is worrisome for Gina because she kind of has poor striking defense. I think she's going to be able to get a takedown and stay on top. Gina comes from a better gym. She's faced more experienced competition. She needs to utilize her wrestling to win this fight. I think this is going to be a close fight. Gina does have a little bit of a chin worry, maybe a little bit of a Carter worry. Gina's 3-5 in the UFC. Shanna's 0-2 in the UFC. Gina, I think the pick here is definitely Gina. Sorry, Shanna. I wouldn't bet on this one. It's not the greatest prospects out of either one of them. I would just enjoy this fight for what it is. Next up, we have Natan Levy versus Mike Breeden. I'm going to go with Natan Levy. Natan Levy is really going to come out there and test his karate in this one. He's going to try and counter strike. He needs to utilize his movement back and forth. He can't stand there and trade. That's not a good idea against Mike Breeden, who's a power puncher. There is a little bit of a gas tank worry for Mike Breeden if this is more of a grappling-oriented fight. The question here again is can Natan Levy get a takedown? He's got a definite advantage in his grappling. He needs to use his clinch control to control the fight. Mike Breeden has struggled against grapplers in the past. He does have some crazy highlight reel knockouts, one of them being that flying knee knockout. 8 out of 10 of his wins come by knockout. So, yeah, that's why you can't just stand there and trade. Natan Levy needs to move in and out, get that takedown, get him off his feet as quick as he can. Mike Breeden usually struggles against higher competition, but he does have a real chance at winning this fight by outstriking Natan Levy only if he can stuff the takedown, which I don't think he's going to be able to do. For that reason, I'm going to pick Natan Levy. Next up, we have Gabe Green versus Johann Laines. Man, this is an exciting fight for me. Both these guys are great strikers. I'm going to pick Johann in this fight. Gabe Green's been out for a year. There was some kind of heart issue he had in training. Did he have a heart attack? Did he not? Who knows? That kind of worries me. I think Gabe is the more skilled striker in this fight, but his striking defense isn't as good. He gets hit a lot when he tries to close the distance and come in. Gabe Green, man, 6 out of 10 of his wins are by rear naked choke, so if he gets your back, he's going to choke you out. I just think he gets hit too much, which is not great against Johann. You know, he's a good power striker. Johann has Patrick Cote in his corner. He's undefeated, man. He's got long power shots. They're a little bit telegraphed, but man, he just needs to get you with one of them. He's a bigger welterweight. He comes at you from weird angles. I think he's going to use his jab and his kicks, and it's going to force Gabe to move in. And when he does so, he's going to get him when he comes in. Johann is super quick in the first round, and he also has a reach advantage on him. And he's coming off 2 back-to-back knockouts. Gabe could win this fight the later it goes on. He has great fight IQ. He's very technical, and he's got great low kicks. I think Johann is going to be looking for the KO, looking for those power shots, but he could surprise us and go for a takedown if he doesn't get a knockout. And, taking Gabe down later on and winning that way is probably going to be his key if he doesn't get the knockout. Next up, we have Daniel Da Silva versus Francis Figueredo. I'm going with Daniel Da Silva. Daniel Da Silva is kind of flashy striker. He's almost a little bit reckless. He's going to look for a land a big shot. He switches stances a lot, which can confuse fighters. Francisco, he does have a similar style as his brother. He's just not quite as powerful, and he also tends to slow down in his fights. Daniel Da Silva has had 2 fights that have gone past the first round. He likes to play off his back, and man, he's got some fire kicks. Francisco, he could hold him down in this fight. He's a BJJ black belt, which isn't the greatest game plan against Daniel De Silva because he loves to play off of his back in BJJ. I think Figueredo kind of leans too much, a little bit like Brandon Jenkins did, where he was like leaning way off to the side. He just doesn't have the greatest fight IQ, and I think he jumps too much. He just jumps a lot, and he's going to get put down for it. Overall, it's a pretty evenly matched fight, but Daniel De Silva's going to win it. Next up, Kristoff Jocko versus Gerald Merchant. Man, this is a classic clash of styles. Striker versus grappler. GM3, Gerald Merchant. All of his wins in the UFC are by finish. He's a bigger guy. He's got reach on him. He's got a good chin, despite being knocked out by Khamzat Chimaev and a few other people. Kristoff is more of a volume striker. He doesn't really finish guys. He can use his movement from side to side to defend the takedown and outstrike you. He's not the most exciting fighter. Gerald is 9-6 in the UFC, and Kristoff is 10-5. Both of these guys have a ton amount of experience. I think where the difference is in the finishes. GM3, 32 out of 34 of his wins come by finish, as where Kristoff, only 7 out of 24 of his wins are by finish. I don't think Kristoff is going to be able to finish GM3. That's why I'm picking Gerald Merchant to win this one. He's an underdog in this fight. He's the underdog I think you should bet on in this fight. I think he's going to surprise everybody. He's probably going to even get a submission and finish this fight. Bet on GM3 on this fight. Next up, we have Darren Elkins versus Tristan Connolly. Man, both these guys need this win bad. Tristan Connolly's fought in multiple weight classes. He's had a neck injury and multiple surgeries that kind of worry me. But I don't think he'd come back too soon with all of those issues. So he should be good to go. On the other hand, Darren Elkins has been in some crazy wars. Have these wars taken a toll on him? Tristan Connolly has a good gas tank, and he could take over later in the rounds. Man, Darren Elkins just bleeds so much. He has so much scar tissue, kind of like Diaz. They're going to have to clean the mats afterwards. He is a BJJ black belt. Both these guys just have so much miles on them, and it could be a really close fight. I'm going to take Tristan Connolly. Tristan Connolly's a bigger guy. I think he's a better wrestler. Darren Elkins has bad striking defense. He does have good wrestling and grappling. He is a black belt. This could be a grappling matchup. I'm going with Tristan Connolly. Next up, Jared Gooden versus Grant Dawson. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson, he's moving up in a weight class. He has struggled against bigger fighters. He doesn't have the greatest striking. He doesn't mix in a lot of variety. He's a little low output. He's definitely a lot better on the mat. Jared Gooden is a boxer that likes to mix in wrestling. He's 6-3 in the UFC. He needs to keep his feet on the fight to win, because Grant Dawson has really good ground and pound. If he gets you down on the ground, his striking is best from the ground and pound. Jared Gooden, he needs to push this pace. He could win by decision, but I'm worried about him missing weight. Grant Dawson just needs to take him down, get a better position, keep it, hold it, and not waste too much energy like he did in the Ricky Glenn fight. Hopefully he learned from that. Jared Gooden could come back and win this fight. He could come back and finish hard. He has amazing cardio. It's kind of what he's known for. So, there is a little bit of worry there that he could finish strong and in the eyes of the judges, win the fight. I'm still going to pick Grant Dawson, though. Next up, Andre Fili versus Joe Anderson Brito. I'm going to go with Andre Fili in this one. This is kind of a weird matchup. Andre Fili should get this win easily. Johann Breederson is kind of wild. He does have a lot of power. He kind of paws at you with his lead hand a lot. And he has a crazy power double, but he shoots from really far away. And Andre Fili is a good wrestler and a long-range striker. He's going to utilize his jabs and kicks. He could get out-volumed, though. I think he has better cardio, which is why he's going to win this fight. He's got reach, height, advantage on him, and he's good at the scrambles. I don't think Joe Anderson is going to be able to utilize his grappling in the scrambles. He is a bigger guy, but I definitely think his cardio is going to fail him in this one, and that's why Andre Fili is going to win. Next up for the co-main event, Andre Arlovski versus Jake Collier. Man, I'm going with Andre Arlovski. Do not sleep on Andre Arlovski, even though he's 40 years old. Man, he used to be known for this great power puncher, and he's kind of totally changed up his style to use his movement, move in and out, pick his shots. I just love how he's evolved as a fighter over time. Jake Collier, man, he checks leg kicks. He has a high output. He gives back good leg kicks himself. He looked good against Chase Sherman. Everybody's saying Collier's going to win this fight because of how good he looked against Chase Sherman. But that was Chase Sherman. It's not Andre Arlovski. Andre Arlovski, man, he usually beats everyone who's not top 10, top 15 competition. I think he's going to be in better shape than Collier. He's going to be patient, and that's why he's going to win this fight. Jake Collier doesn't have a lot of power, and he's not going to be able to finish Andre Arlovski. He could get a takedown and just lay on top of him and make it hard for Andre Arlovski to get up just because he's so big. But I hope Andre Arlovski stuffs a takedown or finds a way to get back up, and I'm still going to pick him as the winner. For the main event, Rob Font versus Cheeto Marlin Vera. Man, I'm going with Marlin Vera on this one. Man, Cheeto is a dog. He is a fighter's fighter. He's what fighting is all about. He comes back even when he's down, like with the Frankie Edgar fight. Man, he's just a dog. He's just pure heart, and he's not going to give up. And I think that's why he's going to win this fight. He's a great striker, but he can also win by submissions as well. I don't think Rob Font's going to grapple in this one. He's just going to look to out-volume Marlin Vera. He's more primarily a boxer, and he's going to use his combos to low-high to try to beat him. Marlin Vera, he can take you down and sub you. He's got great leg kicks. He does have kind of a high guard, which worries me a little bit. Against Rob Font, he doesn't kick too much, but he can work that body and jab him and keep him away. I just don't think that's going to be able to last against someone like Marlin Vera. You may get worried because Rob Font is winning those early rounds, but I think Cheeto's going to take over later on. I don't think Rob Font likes to be pressured. He's also taken a lot of damage recently, wondering how that's going to affect him. I think Marlon Vera is going to beat a bigger guy. I think he's going to three-piece and soda him up later on. He's going to out-muscle him. He may even make Rob Font do one of those shoots on him because he's getting outworked and he doesn't know what to do. And he's just going to shoot on him, and then Marlon Vera is going to sub him off that. Rob Font didn't finish Cody Garbrandt, who everybody is knocking out these days. And he really didn't hurt Jose Aldo, as where Marlon Vera had a lot closer fight with Aldo. I know MMA math doesn't add up, but I'm going with Marlon Vera to come back and win this fight with his pure heart. He's talented as well. Also added to this card from last week's pullout, Alexander Romanov versus Chase Sherman. Kind of the same thing as last week. Alexander Romanov is going to be in better shape. He's got better cardio. I really think this is going to be an easy ground win for him, whether it be sub or ground and pound. Should be a really easy win for him. Chase Sherman does have good leg kicks. He does have nice boxing. You know, honestly, I would not bet on this fight. I would just sit back and enjoy it. The odds are pretty crazy. I don't know. Romanov could be coming out here a little bit mad because he pulled out last week. You know, I know personally cutting weight can make you sick. These guys are heavyweights, so I don't know how much weight they cut. So how sick could he have really been, though, if they're fighting 1 week later? So, you know, I just think it's something like that. He cut too much weight. It made him sick. He didn't want to fight. Something along those lines. Chase Sherman got subbed by Jake Collier in 2 minutes. If Jake Collier can sub Chase Sherman in 2 minutes, what's Alexander Romanov going to do? I'm just saying. All right, there are my picks for Font versus Vera.